Hey everyone!
Welcome back to Outsourcing and More.
My name is Penny.
This is Francis, and
Please don't say interesting.
thank you guys for tuning in. We just wanted to say thank you for keeping with us, me and Penny, and the topics that we have been
Yeah.
discussing. If you haven't joined yet, oh my gosh, please subscribe. We're on YouTube and everywhere where podcasts are. And today we have a what's another word for interesting? No, today our topic is something that may be I would say controversial, no, or
No,
weird,
it's
or
just part of the job being leaders or part of management.
yes. We're talking about we didn't really have like a word for it.
No, we don't.
Yeah, dealing with negative attitude at work.
Yes.
Yes. So you're not looking for oh my gosh, I struggle to put
Okay, let's start it this way.
yeah.
What does it mean to have a negative attitude or a bad attitude at work?
Okay. See, again, something that I struggle with, but I see in other people. Like when you come in, if you're an employee in a company, what are the what? Let's start with like what are the ideal attitudes that you want to bring in, like team player, for
Team
example,
player, yes.
positive attitude,
Yes.
contribute
Yeah.
to the company. But I'm sure you've all seen somebody who fits a description. They come in, they do their work, but at the same time
Complain about
they
everything.
complain about the work. They get others to complain about their work.
They complain about their work. They complain about the decisions made by management.
They
But
complain
don't do
about
anything about it. Just complain or try to find other people in their team, to kind of side with them.
yeah, they and then they look for other people to be a common enemy.
Yes.
They call them something. It's just actually weird because I've seen this as a team leader. You see somebody who's doing their work right, and then people gang up on that person
Yes.
for doing their job. It's like it's the weirdest phenomenon. Like the people who, again, they're either doing poorly or maybe even adequately, but they complain, oh, that person's such a show off. That person is
Yeah, he's probably doing something. He or she is probably doing something to kind of crack up their
the only
stats.
reason why he's doing well is because he's friends with the boss. But
Yeah, things
Oh
like
my
that. Like
gosh.
gossiping about other people too. Okay, now he's riled up.
no, because I've always been kind of
Yeah.
riled up about it.
Yes.
It's because you know how there's so many attitudes of people when it comes to work. People who keep their head down, do their work, just do their 9 to 5, and then there are people, of course, who on the negative side of things, there are people who come in and say, "Hi, this is my 100%," and then they shine. And there are people who also come to work and say, "Hi," they shine, but there's actually empty, but they're actually empty underneath.
Yes.
Just people who are no talk. Oh, I mean,
All
all talk, no action.
Yes.
There's a lot of these attitudes that you have to deal with, but the ones that I find most destructive are people that we call pot stirrers. Like if there's any little thing that goes wrong, they latch onto
yeah,
it.
that doesn't go their way.
Yeah, if it doesn't go their way, like for example, if there's a like reduced overtime hours, for example, like, oh, I rely on that overtime. Why are they doing this without even consulting us? Like,
Yes.
first of all, nobody needs to consult you. But it's just very interesting to see that kind of attitude festers. Like if you're not quick enough to catch it,
Yes.
soon enough you see like people who didn't even care about the topic the first time are now
Yeah.
so impassioned about it, and then you realize that a good percent of the team is already against management. It's frustrating to see.
Yes, of course, it's frustrating is to see, especially for like like the managers that are actually managing that team. It's of course, your vision and your hope always is that people will gel together and work together and perform,
Yeah.
right?
There's a thing about working together and collectively bringing your team's performance up.
Yes.
But there's always that one person. Sorry, what's that term?
For
Talangka.
crab mentality.
Thank you.
Talangka is crab.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
crab
because
mentality sometimes happens.
it
Yeah.
hits harder.
Yeah.
The colloquial term hits harder.
Yes.
Utak talangka.
Yes.
And because when you see that one person and when it happens, it's so easy to spot. But at the same time, it's so hard to call out.
Yes.
It's so hard to call out because there's a lot of defense mechanisms that they can say that, oh, I'm only making an observation.
Yeah.
I'm only making an observation, or is
And-
it
and,
wrong to point it out?
yeah,
Stuff
and
like that.
It's just that some people, you know, everyone's different, right? And everyone will be different when it comes to communicating stuff that they're complaining about or they're trying to point out. What they think is just pointing out is coming off as complaining and negatively impacting the entire team.
It's like,
Yeah.
is it wrong to make an observation? Yeah, but it's different when the observation making is like, they're making us work so hard. Like,
Cool. It's so bad.
no,
No,
because
because
you've seen so many forms of it over the years.
Yes.
It's just, every time this comes up, it's like the worst thing ever. Like,
Yeah. And
you can't
as
take them-
managers, it's also like very frustrating and it's also
because
very
it comes
sad
down
that it
to
happens.
you to have to
Yes.
deal with it, because you're going to have to continually deal with that person. There's it's always going to be there. Did we get the same?
I don't know. Anyway,
You know that it's going to keep popping up
Yeah,
because that's
if
that
you don't address it.
person's nature. Like, by nature, that's how they deal with things. They would, and let's be clear that at this point, when we say we're dealing with a negative attitude, like if you have 10 people in your team, there's always going to be that one person always who deals with issues in the company in a manner that, again, has the tendency to fester and infect and then bring down the whole team's performance.
I just want to be clear. What we're saying is, so, as I've said earlier, everyone in the team is different, right? There are people who will, point things out, but
Objectively.
because objectively, they'll be critical of the processes and be able to communicate that effectively, or even, give a suggestion on what
That's the
can,
most important thing.
Yeah, that's
If
the
you're going
difference
to-
between a person who has a negative attitude that's impacting the team negatively,
and
a
somebody's
person
giving
who's, yeah,
constructive criticism.
Yes.
Because, at the end of the day, you should appreciate everybody's feedback, right?
Yes.
So, say for example, in one team, you always have superstars. Superstars where there's like contribute, bring the whole team up. And surprisingly, that's actually a target for
Yeah,
middle performers and negative performers.
yeah, underperformers.
Not negative.
Underperforming.
Underperforming. Yeah. So you have shooting stars and then falling stars. And your falling stars are, because they're falling, they want to bring people down with them.
Okay, so how do you? Well, yeah, how do we deal with
The first thing is to spot them.
Yes.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because they won't outright show themselves to you.
Yes.
Not to you, who's managing the team. They're careful about that.
Spot them and spot them early.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know. If you don't spot them early, they probably would have wreaked havoc already without you knowing it as a manager.
The only thing you'll find out is that there are side conversations
Yes.
in group chats, and then somebody who's doing nothing is already performing negatively. Actually, sometimes you might figure it out when you have top performers who are beginning to slip
Yes.
because they're affected by the negative things that they're hearing.
And I think, because I've tried this before, right? Well, when, I talked to them individually,
Mm-hmm.
didn't work. One thought that I was only berating him.
Mm-hmm.
and not the other person, which in reality I was talking to them both. I've also tried addressing the entire team because at that point it
The
was too
whole
late
team's
for me.
problem,
Yeah,
right?
it was too late for me to catch it. So I think the one thing that I will say when you're talking to, people with negative attitude is to let them realize the negative impact that they're contributing to the team. You just
Yeah, but they don't understand. I understand what you're trying to say, but that's just one part because you have to look at the impact of what you're saying to that person because again, usually you have that person if they're very judgmental, they're also very critical of feedback that they're giving you. They feel that everything is an
is
agenda,
a
everything is
yeah
a everything's a
criticism instead of a feedback.
yes. And like I said, there's not an easy way
Okay.
to deal with it.
What I'm saying is for there are people who just they just have to be called out, right? You just have to let
Yes.
them know this is the impact that you're doing because of what you said or of what you're doing, and then they will turn around,
Yeah.
right? But if from what you're saying,
Sometimes
if
the
it's something,
sugar coating works. You have to start with like, do you start with sugar coating and say, guys, we have to work together as a team.
yes.
You have to
Well,
let's look at
when I
your
say it, that's true.
yeah,
I
and
don't-
then like, how can I help you,
Mm.
and that's also to them. And then there are times when like,
Oh,
stop that.
they take it like it's as if it's, but it's really what we mean.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like that's exactly right. That's to them, and then like, they're talking to me because they're planning to get rid of me, and now they're
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
It's
think
really how
what I've learned so far is it's also important, like even if you address the entire group because it's happening for the entire team already, even if you address them individually, you have to come from a place of understanding. As this is hard. This is the hard part of being a leader. You have to control your emotions when you're talking to them, because if you come in very strong, they're just going to be defensive.
yeah.
And so you have to come in from a place of understanding. Oh, the reason why she's like this is because she's, she or he is very is concerned about his status in the workplace or whatnot, and again the whatnot, status in workplace, and then address it from there. Because
Yeah.
only with understanding these type of people where they're coming from, that's the way to kind of turn them around.
Yeah.
Now, as you said earlier, there are people by nature are going to be like this, right? If that is the case,
Call out the bullshit. You
view,
have to say it as it is. Like, you're causing this kind of impact. You're causing other people to view the work negatively. I'm asking you to stop. I'm
and if
asking you
they
to
don't,
stop.
then it might be time to let them go.
Yeah. Because, surprisingly, not all of the tenets of work ethics,
Professionalism, work ethics.
work ethics, yeah, can be hit. Like, if your handbook, if you're a manager right now who's dealing with somebody who is causing that, if you can't hit them with stats because they're adequate at that point, there should be clauses in the thing, like, fostering good workplace environment. So if they're not hitting that, you can actually hit them there. If, disruption, undermining authority.
Yes.
Because remember that a lot of these conversations, when they happen and when they're talking about management's out there watching out for us, or they're this is inhumane or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we're not talking about the actual inhumane practices. You're just saying, like, because they have a way of making it look like they're
It's
being
bigger
treated.
than it is.
Oh, they're being treated so
yeah.
poorly.
Yes.
When if you can tell yourself that that's not the case, and then just making a big deal out of things, then they're being disruptive to the work environment. Yeah. And I would totally just make a decision based on that, because sometimes, and this is again a problem, because as a manager, you sometimes take it upon yourself to say, how can I reform this person? But sometimes working on this person
You forget everyone else. Is that what you're?
Yeah, not just, in your attempt to do this, you totally, not necessarily neglect, but sometimes, again, keeping this person in check is taking so much out of you that you're neglecting the rest of the team. Number two, again, for various reasons, by the time that you address this person, you might have already caused some top
Yeah.
performers to either resign or change their attitude towards, such that they're no longer performing as excellently as before.
Agree.
Yeah. And truth is, if it takes that much out of you, I mean, you're not outside of your bounds to just say, you're hurting the team. Maybe
Yeah.
it's time to let them go.
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure what local labor laws.
It has to be 2 memos.
Yeah, it has to be
memos,
memos.
2
Like,
written memos.
again, you're saying disruptive, and then you have to have somebody witness that they're,
Yeah.
making chica outside of the making water cooler conversations, making accusations of. That usually comes down to legal. That's why it's so hard here, because it has to be like,
Yes.
it has to have meeting with legal.
Yes.
That part I remember. But, do it, because, might be the shortest conversation that we're going to have about this. But chances are, if you have somebody who is acting negatively and not on behalf of the company, just fire them.
No, after
Fire them
trying,
and save yourself the hassle.
Okay, I will say the other side of it. Try first. Try to come from a place of understanding and try to salvage the entire team first. If they do turn things around and they do, then great, right? Because that's part of your responsibility as a leader, is to develop the people under you. But again, of course,
My take on that is
Again,
it's a short-term solution.
no, but then of course, there are just people who, even though you're just trying to help them, right, will take it a different way. There are going to be those people. And if that is the case and there's nothing to be done and the entire team and your performance, your productivity is getting impacted, then yes,
Yeah.
make the decision.
Yeah. Actually, that's the thing. You pull back a little bit. I understand what you mean. I just went to the end point. I just went to the
Surround
end
up.
point. Because it's true that there are some people who are disgruntled at some point. They're disgruntled that some policies either aren't being explained to
Yeah.
them
Yes.
properly, but you can still see people who are acting this way because they're impacted negatively versus people whose attitude, because attitude takes a longer time to fix.
Yes, it does.
If attitude were so easy to fix, everybody would have great attitude. But sorry, not just attitude, like your entire personality. And it's very surprising to actually meet somebody whose entire outlook lives in so much,
Yeah.
it's based
Very,
on so
very
much negative.
pessimistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that kind of personality, attitude, the pessimistic side of things comes from a much deeper it comes from a place much deeper than just what affected them at work. That part is just, his reaction towards anything negative is just the tip of the that's just the
Yeah.
surface,
Yeah.
really.
Something is probably happening
Yeah.
in their lives that's making them like that.
I mean, honestly, if their work output isn't that worth salvaging anyway, and again, this is just me, if they're not the entire reason that a department exists, or, the key reason why a department is successful, that's usually not worth the effort of rehabilitating that personality.
That's why they say hire slow, fire fast. Is that right? Fire fast, hire slow thing, I think.
Hire slow. Hire slow is where you have
Because
companies who would like go through 8 interviews.
No. What it's just a quote, because when you're hiring, you're introducing someone in the team that could impact everyone, right?
Yes.
And when they say fire fast, it means if this person is already causing performance,
Yeah, and they're not gelling well.
yeah.
That's
Instead
why.
of letting it fester and develop into something else and affecting everyone, then fire them.
Yeah.
So harsh, but
it is harsh. Like I said, it's a harsh reality. I, in training back then, so hello again, American Express, we had 6 months to train somebody. Literally, by the time this person by the time a class finishes training, they're about to be regularized.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why a lot of like team leaders so they take care of the regularization papers, but they come to me for a lot of the
Yeah.
attitudes. Like usually they make their judgments on the surface. Like why is he slow on handling time? Why is he slow but then I'd have to be the one who say, look deeper. And I would definitely like defend each and every one of them, because the ones that I pushed towards production are people that I believe were worth saving. If they didn't make it to production, I already made that judgment that they're not fit to be part of the company in terms of culture, because there's a lot of things that you really wanna keep in a person, like a get-go attitude.
Yeah.
Keeping positive when things are hard. Because if you have to continually keep bringing somebody up, like, oh, I'm not gonna pass anyway, or I'm not you you push them past training, they're just going to be a
It's gonna
burden
be
on
the same,
somebody
yeah.
else.
They're going to have the same attitude
Yeah.
after.
If your loyalty is to the company and to the company's success, you have to make some harsh decisions that some people aren't cut out to be part of your team. If your team is fast paced, if
Yeah.
your team has like a you have to have a stronger personality in order to survive. It's actually a kindness to cut people out when you think that they're not the right fit for a company. Have to make that suggestion to someone.
So anyway.
Anyway, I'm saying this with a whole lot of love that this conversation is possibly going to come more for like managers and leaders of the
Yes.
team. You are probably being raised and guided to say that every part of your team is worth salvaging, that you have to have one-on-ones, PIPs, that every person is worth nurturing and will be part of the team. And the answer is no.
To you.
The answer is no for me.
To you.
Like, if you're going to watch out for a team that will continually grow.
Because you're talking PIP is performance, but if we're talking about a negative attitude, that's something else.
Yeah, but performance improvement plans also include
The attitude.
attitudes.
Okay.
Because again, if you have to continually like month over month spend 7 days to keep coaching and building somebody up, that's time away from everybody else who could be performing
let's
positively.
agree to disagree. Because I do disagree.
Okay, and I think you're wrong.
And after this, we don't know each other already.
No.
Yeah.
I agree, because again, you have to that's not saying that you still have to do your due diligence, but when the time comes when you find yourself saying, is it worth the effort of continually putting
There's
this
a
much
breaking
effort
point.
to
There's a breaking
to
point.
keep this person improving at a certain level? Again, that's taking time away from people that you can push higher.
There's a breaking point. That
Yeah.
I would say. There's a breaking point.
Yeah.
You
need people who you can push higher because these people are also people who can bring people along with them, not
bring people down.
not bring people down. If you have your company's best interests in mind, that's really something to keep that to bear in mind, that you have to make the best decisions.
Yes, for
that
the company and
yeah
their
that
team.
that factors like work output sometimes comes second to this person's ability to bring people up,
Yeah.
bring your company up, contribute to a positive workplace, as opposed to fostering companies with negative
Yes.
attitudes.
Yes.
I mean, you've seen companies where, and even when it comes to leaders, sometimes people like that reach leadership status.
Yeah.
And that's even scarier.
Yeah, that's even scarier.
It's scarier because they tend to now foster negative workplace attitudes, and
Yeah.
that's worse, and just
Yes.
remember, when it comes to when it becomes that, when the thinking becomes that, you now have that, that you have that famous Monday morning leadership quote: people quit
Bad
people
managers.
people quit people before they quit the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've heard about it, like, I quit because my manager was terrible, I
Yeah.
quit because my workplace was terrible. You couldn't say anything bad about the company, but that speaks to making sure that you have a healthy workplace environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I let's agree to disagree that there's a
No,
certain
it's just
Mhm.
our only disagreement here, really. Well, we do agree at that part where, at that breaking point where you're putting in so much time to try turn around this person, then yes, let them go.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying is, every single person
Deserves it.
deserves to at least be heard and
Oh
understood
yeah.
first,
I,
and
I
see if you can turn them around at that point. But if they keep doing it, then that's the breaking
yeah.
point.
I think we didn't disagree on that part. It's
Yeah.
just, again, jumping ahead to,
Yes.
once you've done your due diligence, you've talked about this guy, I need you to work with me to bring the team up to a certain level. But if you're only going to foster
Yes. Yes.
general disagreement,
Yeah.
I would much rather let you go
Yeah.
and bring somebody in new, because your
Mhm.
work, if you're not irreplaceable as a person,
I mean,
there's
even if they're irreplaceable, find someone who can start doing their job, and then replace them.
okay, fine. But like I said, in the beginning, usually, if you have sometimes companies are tied to, one person being able to successfully bring a department to a certain,
Yeah, level.
like, and that sometimes become beholden to that person. But even that reaches a breaking point. That
Yes.
you would rather find somebody who might be equally, or maybe even if you don't reach that kind of, like, I don't know, brilliance. You'd rather work with somebody who can, you
Yeah.
know,
Get that thing together.
yeah, and that doesn't cause heartache and pain.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh,
A
what's your?
very, very passionate.
It was.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, both of us have had experience with this, and it's always taking a lot from us to try to understand and try to, understand our people. So,
And the moral conundrum, like, when to decide,
yes.
coach some more.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, how do you deal with employees or team members that do have a
How do you
negative
deal with
attitude?
pot stirrers?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts about it.
Yeah.
Might become another topic in itself. I always feel like a lot of these topics feel more introductory than
Yes.
than anything. Like, I wish there was somebody who'd, like, bring in another insight to it. So if you have thoughts, suggestions
please.
on what we
Yes, yes.
missed, maybe, feel free to let your thoughts be known. Comment. And again, subscribe if you haven't. Tell your
Subscribe.
friends about us. And this has been another episode of Outsourcing and
More.
More.
My name is Penny.
This is Francis.
Next time.
See you in the next episode. Bye.